I'm joined now by the Premier of Saskatchewan, Brad Wall. Premier Wall, welcome back to the House.
Great to be here, thanks.
All right, let's talk about this Canada Job Grant. There was a while last year where every province was saying, sorry, this is a bad program, we don't like it. Then Jason Kenney said, well, if you don't like it, we'll go it alone. How did you reach the compromise to get a deal?
You know, the premiers met last summer, and I think some people question the value of meetings, whether it's premiers or ministers, but this was an important one because it sort of got us down the road on the jobs grant specifically. We were able as premiers to agree that Premier Clark and Premier Alward would chair an initiative where we would sit down with Minister Kenney if he was prepared to sit down with us and talk about some specific concerns and ask for flexibility. What we did not want to happen was sort of the loss of about $300 million.
That's right.
In training dollars. And what we also didn't want to happen, especially in Saskatchewan's case, by the way, is a training program about EI that's like the jobs grant that's focused on EI eligible folks to completely replace or take all of the resources that we needed to put in for vulnerable people, for the skills training for vulnerable people that are underengaged in our economy. In Saskatchewan, we're grateful to have full employment. So we need to, but we have high unemployment rates among the vulnerable, amongst Aboriginal people.
Right.
So we need to continue with that kind of training, and the jobs grant, as it was previously constituted, would have deprived us of that. Plus, we would have had to find provincial dollars to match with the job grant. And all provinces had variations of that same position. Minister's given us flexibility. We're going to get the jobs grant for a much lower cost, and I think having employers buy into training, which is the premise here, is a good thing. But now
so
we
pay
won't have
$5, the feds pay $10. The provinces get, as you say, some flexibility on that $300.
Right.
And so you lose some money, but enough that you can all take it.
But we get the jobs grant for it. We get a new initiative. So we would have lost in our provincial budget on training a net of $18 million as it was previously.
Right.
We're down to $6 million. So and I could certainly justify here or anywhere else that $6 million isn't a loss because it does get us the job grant program in Saskatchewan.
Let me talk about the other issue. It's not getting enough media attention. In your province, it's a big issue, and it's the grain backlog. There's a record Saskatchewan grain crop. A lot of it's essentially sitting there in the bin because of the rail backlog. What does the government have to do to help you out?
Well, you know, our government is loath to unnecessarily interfere in the economy, especially with private interests, with corporations. But this is a very serious situation, and thank you very much for featuring it on the House this morning because, well, for example, Japan, a long-standing customer of ours, has said, we're not buying wheat from Canada anymore because they're not reliable in terms of getting it here. We're going to go to the United States. Algeria, another great customer for our wheat. No Canadian companies even made a call to them to sell because they can't deliver.
You can't get it there.
Right. And oats, we're 15 to 20 days away from processors of oats being out of oats, which, by the way, speaks to how important the Canadian oat production is to the world because that's U.S. processors, but also it highlights this problem. It is serious. It goes to our brand in the world. We do have a chance to be a real food power going forward in these fast-growing economies of the world, but not if they don't think we can reliably deliver. This is a perfect storm. It's been a very cold winter. That shortens the trains. We give the railways that. Fair enough. There is more oil on the rail. That's why we support pipelines, by the way. That's also part of the problem. But we've also had railway companies undertake major cuts, take locomotives off track, cut personnel. And so whatever we're saying to our federal government, if you need to take the next step, take it soon. The next step
What
being...
is the next step?
The next step being greater force and perhaps federal emergent legislation, regulation, or order in council. Right now, under federal law, the grain handlers and a railroad company can get together and sign a service agreement. With reciprocal penalties. So if they don't do what they said they would do, there is a penalty. There has been no agreement signed because it's voluntary. Maybe it not to be voluntary. Maybe the government even needs to say, we want you rail companies to put this X number of cars back on the system. That is very obtrusive. That's how serious the problem is. And as you know, we're in Saskatchewan. Our government is, this is not anywhere near the top of the list of things we want to do in the economy, but that's how serious the matter is.
Did you talk to Lisa Raitt about this? Have you talked to... Okay, what's the Fed? What are they saying?
We had a good meeting yesterday with Minister Raitt, and I do think there is a growing awareness. There always has been, I think, on the agricultural side of things, because Minister Raitt lives in Saskatchewan. He's very aware. He's a farmer. He knows what's going on. And I think it's true across government, but I just... but I think maybe to a lesser extent, and now that's changing, was my sense yesterday. I had a chance to raise it with the Prime Minister earlier this week, and I think there's a real understanding there that this goes to Canada's brand on something as important as food exports, which we stand to benefit from. The UN says we're going to have to grow 70% more food in the world to meet the population growth. I like Canada's chances in that world to be a part of the solution and to the benefit of our producers, but only if we can get it there from here.
All right, I got to leave it there. Premier Wall, thanks for that.
Thank you.
That is the Premier of Saskatchewan, Brad Wall.